Hello, it's the Benchwarmer here. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Mansplaining for Men, where we lift the gloss of global topics, lay bare the numbers, motives, and everything going behind the headlines. Today's topic is FIFA Club World Cup 2025, the tournament that's less beautiful game and more beautiful banknotes. A 32-team cash grab disguised as global unity. 63 games, $1 billion prize pool, and more soft power than G7 summit. This isn't just a football tournament. This is the Champions League meets Coachella, sponsored by FIFA, pushed by many parties that will benefit heavily from this tournament succeeding, and hosted across the good old USA. Why does this exist? Let's get real. This tournament exists for one reason: money. FIFA, whose revenue mostly come from men's international tournament, like the World Cup, needed a new flagship event between the 4-year cycle. The all-17 Club World Cup wasn't cutting it. It was truly the most awkward tournament in the whole football calendar. It was basically a retreat for the Champions League winning team just to get an extra trophy, like to finish the sextuple, if that's a possibility for some teams. Now enter the supersized Club World Cup. With 32 teams, global time zones, and cross-confederation narratives, FIFA has engineered a commercial behemoth, sponsor magnet, and most importantly, a direct way to siphon club football profits from UEFA, away from UEFA. Or at least that's what they hope to do. Behind this glittering tournament lies a turf war. FIFA wants to wrestle back control from UEFA, whose Champions League racks annually at least $3.6 billion. By creating a Club World Cup with similar scale and placing it squarely in the off-season, FIFA gets a slice of that pie. Let's think of it that way. UEFA has a Champions League. FIFA has a Club World Cup. CONMEBOL, CAF, I'm just happy to be invited. The Club World Cup for FIFA is the Trojan horse to reclaim narrative, market share, and broadcasting rights from UEFA's iron grip on elite football. Again, that was the plan for FIFA. As we established earlier, this was not a tweak. This was reinventing the whole tournament. And as we said earlier, with a total prize pool of $1 billion, the winner will get to have $125 million. This is basically more than double what Champions League winner gets, which sits around like 50 million euros in prize money. Also, there will be like solidarity payments around 250 million divided among federations, not necessarily transparently. What this means is that just showing up could mean more revenue than the entire domestic season. Matter of fact, most teams from outside of Europe are getting triple and even quadruple the money they will earn by winning the Champions League of their respective federation. Another interesting outage about the Club World Cup is the transfer window, the exceptional transfer window from June 1st to June 10th, where clubs were allowed to make transfers outside of the regular mercato. Matter of fact, in those 10 days, 60 transfers happened. Clubs spent a combined 750 plus million euros, with teams like Man City and Real Madrid spending over $100 million. And also other teams outside Europe breaking the bank to rebuild squads for the tournament and beyond it. You got also teams that decided not to act in the transfer market because of the supposed Club World Cup tax that many teams have. Think Chelsea not going for Mignan because it will be charged for a higher price due to the urgency of the acquisition. So you have, on one hand, you had team that splurged money to get a lot of signings, to rebuild the squads and even like change coaches, while other teams decided to pass the tournament, play it quiet, and just roll with the current squad that they have. Moving on, I think it's about time we talk about our contenders. What better way to do it is than to use a convoluted taxonomy? Well, as we discussed, we can identify different patterns from the transfer market, from the history of their contenders, and their goals. I believe our contenders are divided into 4 categories, starting with we have Tourism FC, our first group. These clubs are here for the cash, vibes, and maybe a chance to say hi to Messi on Instagram Live. We got here teams like Auckland City from the UFC, which is basically a semi-professional team. They just were lucky enough to be playing in an area of the world where there isn't much competition. Matter of fact, most of their players have other jobs than being footballers, and many of them couldn't even attend the Club World Cup because they couldn't take a vacation. Sadly for them, as a team with the same level as a 4th division German football team, they're facing Bayern. Like, for them, like, they will be demolished 15-0, like, at least, especially in front of the one big team that's not afraid or ashamed to destroy little teams. Also, we have Seattle Sounders, Monterrey, and LAFC, which are MLS and Liga MX staples, mostly using this to sell jerseys, bring in home crowds, and try to have a good amount of time. Also, we have teams like Esperance, who straight up said, we're here for the money, we're here for the promotion. At least they got one of the best t-shirts you can ever ask for. Also, we had Tundowns, who are fresh out of a final loss in the African Champions League, but still they have a good coach and a good team, and they will try to attempt to compete. Also, we have El Wydad, who aim to try to survive the death group, or at least what we thought was the death group when the groups were announced, who actually, instead of buying a player in the transfer window, they actually sold one of their players to Al Ain, one of the other teams in this competition. And also we have other Asian teams like Urawa and Olsen, quality size but tactically frozen at time. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have teams that are putting their foot on the gas. They're taking it super seriously. They are basically the tryhards of the tournament, and they are here just to have a rehab session for their ego. We are talking about teams, big names, big wallets, who underperformed in the past season, whether it's Real Madrid, who struggled and lost every single time to their rivals, and even on the global and continental scale. Also, we have Manchester City, who, after Rodri's injury, got in shambles and had an abysmal season, especially for them as 4-time Premier League title winners. Also, we have teams like Inter, who just got fresh out of the 5-0 beating, the biggest in Champions League finals history, and also other teams like Atletico, Chelsea, and Juve, who are underperforming for quite some time and would like a fresh start, and a statement win at the Club World Cup would mean a lot for them, for the morale, for their sporting projects. It will either be a way to funnel in more revenue or even legitimize their direction and their planning. Now, moving to the third group, which are the teams to watch, the new challengers, as we might say. These teams bring real intent. They're hungry, dangerous, and ready to screw up some brackets. Mainly, we have Al Ahly, Africa's biggest team, 11 CAF Champions League title, and they were real busy within the transfer window. They got a lot of squad depth, and funnily enough, a lot of them played for their arch rival Zamalek before. So it's like, what if Real Madrid now bought 5 of the best Barca players just to compete for this competition? Yeah, this is what pretty much every Zamalek fan feels right now. Also, we have Red Bull Salzburg, who were abysmal in the last 2 years, both on the continental and even the local stage. But they got 7 new players, and they are trying to get something starting. Moving on, now we have the 4 horsemen of Brazilian football: Palmeiras, Flamengo, Fluminense, and Botafogo. These Brazilians are never to be underestimated. They're always up there in terms of talent, quality, and even though a lot of the talents in Brazil is now being snatched up by European giants, we cannot deny the pedigree of these teams and the quality there in their ranks. At least all of these teams will move to the round of 16, in my opinion. Also, we have River Plate and Boca Junior, same situation as the Brazilians. These Argentinian powerhouses, there will be a tough challenge. They're also capable of reaching very advanced stage and even compete till the way up. Also from Asia, we have teams like Al Ain and especially Al Hilal, who have world-class players who are here to make a statement. And finally, we have teams like Porto, Benfica, who are always there. You can never underestimate them. And also we have Pachuca, who basically sold their soul for Ramos. And let's hope they get something out of it. Let's not forget Inter Miami. They have Leo Messi. That's enough to pose a challenge and to be able to advance to further stages. Moving on to the fourth category, which are the teams that are most likely to win. Yeah, many of them were mentioned within the ego rehab section, but I would like to highlight the two teams that I personally believe to be the closest to win the title. Obviously, the biggest contender is PSG, Paris Saint-Germain. They just won a historic treble, the first French team to win a treble, and the second to ever win the Champions League, by a historical score, mind you. Total domination, they have the best team in the competition. It's not even my opinion, honestly, at this point. Of course, there is the chance that they might be too drunk on joy to care enough about this competition in comparison to other teams who might try harder. And then we have my second pick to win the tournament, which is Bayern Munich. They have a lot of great talent. They offloaded already some of their weaker squad members like Leroy Sané abroad, and they are willing to, I believe, compete and win the title. They have amazing players. So before the first whistle even blows, let's call this tournament for what it really is. A marketistan filled with greed and cynicism. FIFA is hyping the Club World Cup like it's some revolutionary new chapter, but in reality it's a bloated, overpriced, politically loaded mess. US is hosting, but good luck enjoying it if you're a fan from Africa, Asia or South America, with ICE and Border Patrol monitoring, quote unquote, the stadiums. It's less welcoming spectacle and more like airport terminal with a scoreboard. And while FIFA is talking about growing the game, giving everyone a chance, they basically gave the chance an opening for Saudi Arabia to, let's say to bribe FIFA for the 2034 World Cup hosting rights by investing in the zone, who happened to offer FIFA the prize money. Saudi Arabia invested $1 billion in the zone for like less than 5%. The zone paid for the broadcasting right for $1 billion. And guess what? The prize pool that FIFA needed to make this tournament somewhat of a success, or matter of fact, just make it viable, they need $1 billion. So yeah, it's pretty clear, honestly. And ticket sales, already embarrassing. Some venues are selling seats for under $5. Imagine the opening game for under $5. The American audience isn't even showing up. This isn't a cultural moment. It's a scheduling mistake. And most of all of this tournament will widen the gap between continental superstars and the rest of the continent and the rest of the competitors. Well, yeah, this means that teams from outside Europe that got in this tournament will probably keep on getting it due to the immense resources they now have access to. Well, sorry to leave you on this sour note. Please leave a comment if you liked it. Please give me feedback on how to improve these videos, and I would love to hear some of your suggestions.